Lately, I've been thinking about our obsession with certainty and how it quietly changes our lives. The idea that certainty is something to be chased or desired, I believe, is fundamentally flawed, particularly from a human perspective. Certainty at its best exists within nature. For example, the sun will rise and set, the tide will flow in and out, but this kind of certainty belongs to Earth and not to us. The point I'm making is that Earth will shift through its cycles, with or without us, which is in part why I believe chasing the idea of certainty is almost pointless. Humans have never been certain, but despite this, we have always remained curious. In the past, often the answers we were searching for were found within religion. For centuries, religion gave us this central framework that people used to make sense of almost everything, for life, for death, and even morality. But when we stepped into modern times, that belief and way of thinking is now disregarded and more or less left behind. In this video, I hope to explore how our search for certainty has evolved and how our faith has almost mirrored the growth of society. To start, I'd like to mention the main inspiration for this video is the film Conclave. Directed by Edward Berger, Conclave, as the name suggests, is a film on the papal election after a pope has passed away. More specifically, the inspiration directly stemmed from Ralph Fiennes' character, Dean Lawrence, and a speech he performs prior to the beginning of the conclave. Now, I'm not going to spoil anything major from the film, though if you're yet to give Conclave a watch, I'd highly recommend it. It's a beautifully made film, the writing, the score, even the cinematography all really stood out to me. Our faith is a living thing precisely because it walks hand in hand with doubt. If there was only certainty, and if there was no doubt, there would be no mystery, and therefore no need for faith. Although shared in a religious context, I think it's universally relevant, and not something we should overlook. Certainty in the 21st century, and even parts of the 20th century, is often chased by us subconsciously. We seek it within our daily lives, almost as a form of comfort. This often comes in the form of emotional clarity or validation, yet this isn't new to humanity. Society has always attempted to connect with this higher level of understanding, yet it's always felt intangible to us, hence the creation of art. Particularly in history, the creation of reverent and religious art acted as a bridge for our faith to connect with a higher power. For that reason, much of historical art was in fact religious. It was made not just to mirror our faith, but to surrender our faith to the art. For example, the piece on the Sistine Chapel ceiling by Michelangelo, God stretching toward Adam, whose hand slightly lingers, perfectly captures the uncertainty we hold within faith. God's presence remains available to us, but only if we're willing to place our faith within Him. Religion was the backbone of society in human history, therefore having bodies of work that we could resonate with was massively important. Despite this, in more modern times we choose to surrender our faith in different ways. Modern art, whether that be film or music, often seeks certainty, especially in emotional clarity or validation. Hence why we listen to certain genres depending on our mood. We now turn to art to evoke specific feeling, rather than to sit with mystery or surrender to the unknown. Think about a breakup song, or even a motivational film. We now settle for pre-packaged emotion just to feel something. In the past, we used to surrender to faith. Now we settle for consuming certainty. It's no secret that religion, particularly in the West, has almost undergone secularization. Simply put, as society has shifted culturally, people now put their faith towards science and technology as opposed to their religious beliefs. This is likely because many questions previously reserved for religion are now being answered by the developments within society. The best example for this, I believe, is of course Adam and Eve. I'm sure religious or not, you'd have heard of the story of Adam and Eve. From the book of Genesis, it suggests that God gave life to the pair, and that we're all direct ancestors of both. In contrast to this, science enables us to find the how for ourselves. We now know due to an evolutionary process that we are descendants of earlier humanoids. Most commonly known, an example would be Neanderthals that existed almost 300,000 years ago. Regardless of where you place your faith, there's always a level of uncertainty. Religious answers most questions, yet there is no burden of proof, nothing to prove the claims of religion other than the religious texts themselves. Whereas science, despite holding the ability to answer questions in certainty, there are many questions yet to be answered, and even more that may not be possible due to the limitations of our own technology. Romanticizing this idea of certainty often leads to disappointment, yet it's human to seek it. We're wired to crave a certain level of safety and comfort, but instead, certainty provides us with this seductive illusion of control that we just simply don't possess. Equally, in search of certainty, we often limit ourselves and begin to undervalue faith. Faith, by contrast, embraces humility, recognizing we don't have all the answers, and yet allowing ourselves to live side by side with the unknown is beautiful. In fact, some of the most meaningful parts of the human experience require a level of doubt, and we see this clearly in relationships you cherish, whether that be friendships, family, or a significant other. Doubt naturally exists, yet we build that level of trust. that trust would not exist without a level of uncertainty. Even the question of purpose resides within the unknown. As humans, naturally we seek purpose. We move towards our dreams, often uncertain of the route there, even of the destination. But despite this, we still seek purpose and allow ourselves to progress, regardless of the amount of doubt we hold within. Both certainty and faith are massively important, but they must coexist. If one overpowers the other, then the imbalance can become a detriment to us. Ultimately, I believe yearning for certainty is a bit of a double-edged sword. There's something noble about striving for clarity within your life, and being certain may grant you that in some aspects, but the ability to balance faith and certainty is imperative. As Dean Lawrence mentioned, there is no faith without certainty. If we were all certain, there'd be no mystery, and placing your faith within mystery is courageous within itself. Maybe the point isn't to have everything figured out. Maybe it's best to just live side by side with what we don't know.